Welcome, everybody, to another great episode of the Beyond Normal podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Groom. We are in the middle of season 7. Can't believe it. We have a very special guest who has not one, but two incredible businesses that they're bringing to the world. Our next guest goes by the name of Manny Larcher. He has an incredible background in the angel investing space, but he started two companies, the first of which is Collab, which is a data intelligence platform that connects businesses to resources. Really invaluable tool. I checked that one out. And then his second company that we'll touch on a little bit as well is Stopwatch Creative. In his role at Stopwatch, he says he's the CEO and the janitor. So he does all things at that company. He's wearing multiple hats. Love to hear that. And at that company, they transform brands through strategic campaigns, awesome design, seamless experiences for their customers. We haven't really had a guest yet who has come on to explain how they're able to run two businesses at the same time. So I'm really excited to have Manny on today. So without further ado, Manny, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well, going well. Yeah, thank you for having me on. So probably will help to clarify some things. In terms of Stopwatch, so Stopwatch was started in 2017 with a co-founder, Lenny. And essentially, we're a consulting agency. We could also build tech and we could also run marketing campaigns. And have had great success. We've worked with professional athletes, some well-known, from Columbus, Ohio, like Michael Red, and we've helped people sell their companies, Proteon Software, Michael Holstein, and essentially, um, during and we also did events called Collaborate and Elevate. And we still own Collaborate and Elevate.com. Really, for us, the pandemic changed a lot. So when the pandemic happened, we essentially productized our service. Um, and over time we pivoted the and changed the name to Collab, Colaab. I do have two companies up and running, but for the most part, everything really funnels through Collab.
Appreciate that distinction there. And it sounds like you and your team did something during the pandemic that many businesses had to do, which is pivot, and you were at least able to stay alive, right, in terms of the business moving forward in a new format. It's exciting to hear that you were able to take something that was working prior to the world stop for many people, and then pivot into that new thing. I'm curious. You brought up the word like productize. Like, what all went into making that pivot to where the company Collab is right now?
Yeah, great question. And so I think we realized during the pandemic quickly that we lost a lot of clients. But the other thing really was we were really appreciated by a select few. Um, so then we realized that less is more. We had two offices. We also had employees on staff, multiple interns, so it was very tough. We had to make a lot of tough cuts. And essentially, I was listening actually to a podcast, which is why I love what you're doing, because you just hear it was a random podcast. I don't even know who said this. I think it was a businessman in India, but he said creates. They were talking about his business. He was definitely from India, but he said on the podcast, create something that everyone could afford. If you're lucky, you'll be able to help, a few people. But if you're really doing good work, if you're blessed, you'll be able to help hundreds and thousands. And then so during the pandemic, there was a combination of we had clients willing to pay us really top dollar amount, but then there's an overwhelming demand for support. So that's really where collab came in. And over time, you know, you're just it's a beautiful thing. But and I could go into that more, but that's really where it came from. I think it's how can you help more people and put systems in place to automate yourself and automate really well, just really obviously automate yourself, but automate the services that your
Mm,
customers want. So that way your time is spent focused on the most important thing.
Yeah, I love to hear that. That really sounds like where the world is headed, Manny. With many of the new solutions that are out there, right? In terms of automating as much as the process as you can to bring value to your customers. I'm curious because we met at a really great event in the Ohio area where your home base is. Talk a little bit about what your experience has been like in the Ohio market, some of the bigger cities, the Cincinnatis of the world. And the reason why I asked that is because when I went to Ohio last year, I was a little shocked around just the conversations around innovation, and that's where I met you, and so I met some great Black founders, some really great Black talent out there. So talk a
Mhm.
little bit about how that being in that sandbox that is Ohio, what that did, what that's done for the things that you're building now.
Yeah. So that's where I was born. My mom and dad are both from the country of St. Lucia. My dad was a musician, and my older brother and sister were both born in New York, but they kind of fell in love with Ohio and really decided to raise us there. So um, I think I don't, I think it. I really think you have to focus on building skills um, and and really putting yourself out there. Um, and I do think Ohio is very rewarding if you do that, but it's hard, there are a lot of challenges and a lot of barriers,
Yeah, talk
probably
about it. Talk about it, Manny.
probably just like most places that you have, I think one of my good buddies, he said, Ohio has an invisible glass ceiling. So I think that, you know, as an entrepreneur, you really have to really kind of put yourself out there and you really have to put your best foot forward. If I'm just being full transparent, I think Ohio, it's a very, um, it's almost like when you go to a bank and you have to buy a house. Like if you don't have a good credit, if you don't have a job, if you didn't do your taxes, right, they're not going to give you a house. So I almost feel like everything in Ohio almost sometimes has that level of difficulty, like
Mm.
so I think that's and I don't know if people really know that, and honestly that's probably why a lot of young people end up leaving. But um, I do think if you just focus on building something, showing your value, and I think some people might say I'm annoying at the end of the day. Yeah, because I promote how I'm helping people, right? They might say, hey, he's egotistical, but if you go on any of my websites, I don't even think, I know my face is on Collab, right? And look how many people are on Collab, right? So for me, it's, you have to it's like the why again is really, two immigrant parents from a small island of under 250,000 people that, try to give their kids their best life, so that's who created me, right? So I have to make sure
Hmm.
I have to make sure I take care of them. And then what about their parents? What about their siblings? So I think that's really what I keep the main thing, and then I think it's so rewarding when you have, people that want to compensate you for your time, for your product, for your service. It's up to you as a founder to listen to them and to get better and improve the product. I have customers that have been paying for literally since 2016, before I even had a company. They were paying me, when it was 1099, right? And so
Hmm.
I think there's a level, and they're not even in Ohio. They're in, um, so yeah, I'll keep them quiet for this, but um I just think it's you have to really, again, just focus on your product, focus on why people are paying you and how you can make that better. Because someone will try to it's not, we all have competition, right? At the end of the day, right? So one day your customer is going to say, "Hey, I wonder if I could get this better." And we all do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's why we all shop on Amazon and then we act like we don't. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
um,
I,
yeah.
I love yeah, I love that you know that candid response around your experience in Ohio, right? But then you definitely talked about the skills and like the way that you like think about your business and like solving problems for customers. I'll be honest, my experience, the bar for me, I was really unsure about what I could find in Ohio. So me being there and then seeing incredible talent, incredible founders that look like me, for me it just was a little bit eye opening because I probably went in uh thinking a little bit of what you just stated.
Mhm.
And I like how you said it where you really have to focus on your skill, like your craft, because the people I met at Black Tech Week, which was the event, I
Yep.
believe, was it? Yeah. Was it Black Tech Week or
It
was
was it
it?
or was
Yeah.
it?
Okay. Okay.
I think it was like a dinner, but I don't know if it was Black Tech Week
No, it
actually.
wasn't Black
Was
Tech
it
Week.
Midwest
Um,
Con? The
yeah, it was
Midwest?
Midwest Con.
Yeah,
Sorry for
yeah.
that confusion, but
Rob
that
Richardson, yeah.
yeah, with Rob Richardson and his team. But the thing was when I met everybody I met there, I felt was sharp. If you know what I
Oh,
mean.
there no, there's incredible look, I think anyone in like any environment like the Midwest that has to deal with 4 seasons every, a new season every three
Hmm.
months, and we're dealing with people's mood change all the time, right?
Yes.
There's all history. We all know the history of America, so we all have the same issues. So I think it makes you grit, right? So in terms of talent, man, Ohio is incredible. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
in Miami right now. Last night, I had dinner from a random tech event that I went to. Come to find out, it's 6 of us sitting at the table. 4 of us are from Ohio, and we didn't even know
Hmm.
that. So I just think Ohio, like there's incredible talent. I think really what I'm saying is presentation. I think we just have
Yeah.
to. It's all about presentation. Are your financials in place? Do you have a data room if you're
Mhm.
raising? Do you have a solid deck? Are you explaining the capital access plan? Are you ready to have conversations about this for 45 days if you're trying to raise, institutional
Mhm.
capital? It's just that's really, and at the end of the day, that's the process, right? I think it's just a process, right? So,
Yeah.
so I think, that's the challenge. And then also statistically, there's not as much capital, right, available. If you look at the size of the 3 cities, right? So then look at, you
Mhm.
know, I mean, again, there in the surrounding, there are opportunities, right? So you just got to, I mean, there are a ton of opportunities, tons of businesses
Yeah.
coming,
I
so
appreciate I appreciate that perspective, and real quickly because I think you're touching on the experience that you've been going through the last few years, where now you're in angel investing, like you're on the other side of the table, right? You're not necessarily just thinking from the business owner perspective, but the companies or the individuals that at times could be writing these sizable checks that help businesses grow. Like what was your curiosity about being on that other side of the table? Because not very many founders I see actually, take that seat at the table. They typically, I'm a founder, I want to live this life, but that venture capital, that angel investing route is another place that they can go. Like why did you decide to go that route in addition to being a founder?
yeah, no, great question. So I think that it's just curiosity, really. In 2015, I was a part of a startup team called Ardina. We raised VC funding, just 500K from Revlon Ventures and Carnell Health, and then 2 years later, that company was strategically acquired, really for the IP. It was more of like an acqui-hire situation. So not a big liquidity event there. And then really, what did I do in 2017? I started, my company. So. Um, I have ton. I mean, yeah, there's, a term kind of called a scout where you're essentially, helping founders raise capital. And you could do that through, you could do that just out of the kindness of your heart. You could do that, if they hire you as a consultant. You could do that if you are investing in the company. You could do that if you're getting advisory shares in the company. So I'll say since 2017, I look at myself as, in terms of that relationship where you're just working with a bunch of companies and trying to see how you could help them in a capacity grow, primarily really more from a trading hours for advisor equity shares, right? And I think that um, in 2022 when I joined Jumpstart Ventures, it was really again curiosity. And Jumpstart is in essentially one of the most active VC firms in Ohio. They're in year 21, over 180 investments. And 100 active portfolio companies. It's a C through Series A investment firm. So it was just a really good opportunity to just kind of learn from, really, kind of one of the oldest and most active institutions, and it's been a great experience there. It is a state funded organization, so there's we only invest in Ohio founders. So it from going back to what I was doing, and I'm talking to you in Miami right now. I think that was that's the interesting thing. But me being from Ohio, it's obviously um, has helped obviously since I have a pretty great network here in Ohio. So um, yeah, all that to say, I think investing is asset class. You can invest in stocks, you could buy homes, right? Angel investing, it's typically anywhere from I mean, you could write $100 checks. Obviously, you're right. Obviously, the more for more. I'd probably say probably
Hmm.
typically under 50,000 maybe, or at least under 100,000 is angel investing. Typically some people do SPVs, special purpose vehicles, sidecars, right? You could use angel list to gather up 250K in a formal document and invest in any company if you want. So a lot of this is really being just available to the mass public, and it's yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it's just language and for us to understand the opportunities. One of the most famous angel investors, Jay Cal, uh, notoriously was like one of the first people in Uber. I think it was 25K in for, a nine-figure exit, right?
Hmm.
So I think that's obviously those are the home runs, but um, I think that's really what venture capital is about.
Yeah, I don't even think I need a home run. I just need a
Yeah.
a double.
Yeah, a double or triple would be nice, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
would be nice, right? So through your work with Stopwatch and Collab, you work with brands like Red Bull, like Grubhub. Those are just some of the bigger brands that you work with. I'm curious, as you work with these really like globally recognized companies, and now we look at startup founders or just founders in general. I'm curious, do you find that do you find commonality? Like, how much separation is there between Collab and a company like Red Bull or Grubhub in terms of the way that they execute? Like, I'm curious. Like, what do you see as that
Yeah.
separation to get to that level?
Yeah, it's a very great question. And I still enjoy being able to go in both worlds, but these companies are massive. They have offices in numerous cities, employees that focus on certain regions. They're paying up to date. Whatever you think, they have it in terms of top talent from engineering, from development. Um, so in terms of anything that I've done with any big company in Stopwatch and Collab, in most cases, obviously, executive teams approve the budget, but I report to, that individual at that, you know, small business department, that individual at, creative marketing or digital marketing. So these companies are just massive, right? And their processes, JP Morgan has 300,000 employees. They sponsored our innovation conference for Collab. I mean, these are just massive companies. So I think it's so they take their time and how they make decisions. And I think from a founder perspective, I think the benefit that you have is the speed. How quick you listen to a customer. For example, for Collab, we had a customer send us such a nice email about how they believe they work with many vendors, and they said you're the best SEO vendor that we have, and that was interesting. So it just gave us some more insight and more knowledge to kind of double down on some things. Um, Immediately, right? No meetings,
Mm,
right? No having to approval processes. So I think that's really the main difference. Everyone has different aspirations, especially if you start a company. Do you want to go public? Right? Do you want to, raise a ton of, or, raise institutional capital? Do you want to just bootstrap? Right? I think you as a founder really, really, really need to decide that, because then you might just be end up wasting a lot of people's time. You know, if
mm, yeah, for sure. I could see spending most of my career in corporate, a lot of time does get wasted. To your point, I definitely see the value in, like you said, you're a founder, you make these decisions really quick and there's less waste. And I think the where the world is headed now, we see some of these big institutions, like you mentioned, like the banks and things like that. Like they're saying, hey, we have 300,000, but maybe we can do it with 250 and a couple, some AI, right? And so I do see like there's like this shift for the bigger businesses to almost get a little bit like the little guy, right? They're trying to
Mhm.
pull some of that into what they're doing at the scale. The scale is just different. Like you said, the scale is on another level. You probably in most cases can't compete with that as a small business owner.
Yeah,
But I'm really excited to see even big companies being like, hey, how can we make a decision faster without,
yeah.
so
I
many
think
hands in the pot, right?
for sure, and I think like how founders should think about it is, if you're a startup, your goal isn't to like have runway. Your goal should be to get traction, to take off, right? To leave the airstrip. So um, these companies, like they're in every single market, so it's we probably should look at markets, and that's why
Mm,
investors really say, hey, what's your go-to-market strategy? Like, how are you going to get customers? Are you going to have to run insane, marketing campaigns, or do you have some knowledge in the industry where the word of mouth is coming? So I think that's the number one thing I think people founders should think about it. But it's such a massive, you know, there are opportunities. So um, obviously, too, you have to figure out, you know, get traction, figure out what you're doing before you know, kind of go everywhere. Obviously, so yeah,
I see it. I see. Um, let's talk a little bit about. I noticed the pricing on. I think it was Stopwatch Creative,
yeah,
and the pricing got me excited, Manny. And the reason why is because I often see business models in our community where they say, "Hey, we're just going to go with the bare minimum. We're going to do 9.99 because it's a nice even number that people probably won't balk at." Like, how do you get to the point where you can charge somebody $10,000, $5,000, or even a custom package where there's more value that needs to be unlocked for them? Like, talk a little bit about that because I think, in specifically for Black founders, pricing is often an area where there's pressure on both sides, right? There's pressure from your end customer, and maybe even internally in your mind, you're thinking, "Hey, how do I get somebody the right product for a deal?"
yeah.
Talk a little bit about pricing.
Yeah, no, great question. I think that they're like, we're in the marketing business, so it was always important, what happens after you kind of Google us, and for us to really highlight our services and what we're doing, and telling our story there. Um, and then so I think it. really, so all of the public pricing started during the pandemic. Um, and we were inundated with with work essentially. Um,
Mm,
and then so then what I realized is that I literally had someone call me and like someone referred him, Michael Holstein, who we helped sell his company. He referred him to us. He was like, "Hey, look, I heard you did this with Mike. How much do you charge?" And then I threw the number you said, 10,000, and he literally was like, "That's it. After working with me, you're gonna be able to triple your prices, right?" And then I was like, "Okay, well, like." Okay. So two things. I was annoyed with the other side of all of this, where it's like, hey, we meet and then we pitch and then we go back and forth, then we go back and forth and back and
mm-hmm,
forth. So then it was like, okay, well, I really was annoyed with that. And then I had people like this kind of calling me, and I mean, that guy sold his company 2 years later. That's when the public pricing, it was like, hey, let's eliminate sticker shock and then let's put the demand out there. And then I just think it's a consistency and a revolving loop. Keep working with people, highlighting what you're doing. I think what happens in my case is that the people who didn't have a budget didn't call, and the people that did,
mm-hmm.
right?
Ah,
And yeah,
that's fire, Manny. Like you said, keep working and then promoting what you're doing. That's a cheat code. It is so simple, Manny.
and you never know. You never know. Like I've been to Belgrade, Serbia. I've had clients in the Philippines, right? Um, um, just all over the place. It's kind of wild. So I think
Hmm.
that it's all about being unique. Um, and again, I think every business wants to grow. So it's about, do they trust you? Do they think they could get value out of your service? So um I think that's it. And I think if you show the value, I think, why wouldn't they want to continue to work with you? Why wouldn't they tell their other business owners that you could help them? So that's kind of like my
Hmm.
viewpoint on everything, and not letting the highs get too highs, and during the lows, know that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I love it, man. So, lastly, I appreciate you. This has been a dope, insightful conversation. Your background is definitely you've done a lot. Just the market you're in, I got to see you in action, networking and doing certain things at the event, Disrupt Now event. And so, lastly, just a couple quick things, um, because your customer base is B2B, right? You're in a B2B model. Like, what does it look like for like when should some when should a business reach out to you? And then on the back end of that, like how should somebody reach out if they wanted to start working with uh Collab or Stopwatch?
Yeah, so I think it's so we have entrepreneurs, we have, one, two, person teams. And I would say it's maybe micro consulting. Maybe we could amplify their business. We now are surpassing over 50,000 followers across socials. We're active on all channels, and only you know I anticipate that number just only continuing to grow. So yeah, they joined for that access to experts on a micro consulting basis. That's super affordable, right? The cheapest, most affordable plan is $35, right? So Collab is really meant
Mm,
to kind of cater to anyone. And I think and so yeah, we have one, two-person teams. We have small businesses, restaurants. We have, scaling, companies who want maybe again micro consulting on their investment materials, or maybe they want connections, and their matchmaking is a core feature in our network. So it's a combination of doing that, and from a large corporation perspective, I think it's initiatives that we align with, and if you want to work with the volume of customers, then essentially we have that opportunity that we could do creative campaigns. Um, but also I would say too, from um, there's just a pure consulting aspect, right? As well, that we have as well too, and insights that we have, that we work with a lot of companies too. So data intelligence. So that's really the kind of funnel. And then I think if you want the hands-on, I look at Stopwatch again as that kind of hands-on support. And we still kind of work with a small number of clients on an annual basis. But
Mm.
our primary focus has really been collab for the last 5 years.
Got it. I love to hear you're servicing business owners, like you're meeting them right across Collab and Stopwatch, and so that's awesome to hear. Definitely pushing more business creation for Black founders, specifically B2B. I don't think there's enough founders that are doing the type of work that you're doing. Not that
Thank you.
Manny is scared of the competition, but I just think that there's so much opportunity. And
Oh
I
yeah.
got excited seeing the prices, just the different options of pricing, and I feel like you're definitely giving the whole market something, no matter the size of their business.
Yeah.
Appreciate you for just sharing a little bit. And so, just to clarify, how's the best way for folks to connect with you and then like tap in with the services?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. Manny Larcher. You can search for me. Um, I'm public, open. Try to be as responsive as possible. And Collab, COLAEB.com. You can go there. If you go to the very bottom of Collab, you'll see that the site is managed and maintained by Stopwatch Creative. So you could go there, and then that's essentially our consulting company. Um, and we try to have a bunch of testimonials on there. And look, we're all about improving. So we're completely open to feedback. You know, someone once said competition is for losers, right? So I think it's,
Mhm.
how can we build together? And how can we really, again, it's a very massive world. So how can we partner and collaborate and elevate? Let's go. Yeah.
I love it, Manny. For those tuning in, tap in with Manny's brand, his websites. They're amazing. He's worked with some incredible companies. Without further ado, thank you for tuning in to another great episode of the Beyond Normal podcast. Peace.
Thank you.